Welcome back, everybody. So this is the Artin Track now with the Carrera parts put in. It's set up on 6 tables from Walmart. These are 6 by 2.5 folding tables. In the back we have our transition piece. Going into Carrera, we have our lane switches back there. Our dual lane lap counter, so we can count all four lanes for laps. We're using the wireless, so we don't have any wires for any of the controllers. These are the nice battery operated ones that are actually pretty cheap. Then we come back here, back through the transition. We got the radius 3 and 4 Artin Track from the American stock car set. So this radius 4 Artin takes up about 5 feet. A radius 4 Carrera takes up 8. Here we have radius 2 and 1 curves that came into one of the sets, a couple of straights. Again, the radius 2 and 1. I don't have inner borders. I'm going to have to fabricate some. I was going to 3D print some, but my 3D printer just stopped working. So I got to fix that too now. Okay, we come across here. Now we go into the DigiPro section. That is the Artin DigiPro double lane changer there. It's been converted to work with Carrera Digital. You can see the sensors on the other side. This is the Artin pit lane. It's been converted to work with Carrera Digital. One of the things that I did, I cut this off. It had this little raised light up section on, but that was going to interfere with my 124 cars. So then we come back out and around another radius 4 curve. So that's the track. I have vacuumed everything. I'm going to wipe it off with a damp cloth. I got my GoPro set up right here in the ceiling so we can get some good shots. We're going to do the plastic tire test on this. One last thing I forgot. I was having trouble getting the pieces to connect, so I always just fabricate a piece. This little piece right here is just a straight that was cut down. The rails were removed, cut, and replaced. I showed you how to do that in a previous video, but I made this to cover up the gap. As I was filming this, someone asked a question about the guide flag in the Artin slot. So here's the Artin slot. You can see a Carrera car coming down, and there's the guide flag right there. You can see about how it goes into the Artin slot. By comparison, this is a piece of Carrera track. Same car. And there's the slot right there. There's a guide flag in the slot. I would say they're pretty much the same. I wanted to mention something about the Artin Track and the larger 124 scale cars. They won't fit in a 4-lane configuration. So if you have a 4-lane Artin Track, I had them fabricate a couple of borders for the inside of the radius 1 turns. But if you have a 4-lane Artin Track, you essentially have kind of a 2.5 or 3-lane Carrera Digital 124 track. Let me explain this real quick. These are 124 cars, and they will pass each other. It'll be close, but they're kind of a slim car. The spacing between those 2 lanes, because there's this little groove between the one piece of track and the other piece of track, that increases the spacing by about 1/4 of an inch. So you've got a lot more room to pass. So ultimately, this particular car in this lane can block themselves and this one, but there are 2 places where you can pass them. So you kind of have a 3-lane. You have a 3-lane track. And this car's over here. You can see it's real narrow. So this car blocks 2 lanes. If you're driving a narrow car, you only block the 1 lane, if depending on what else is racing against you. So it gets kind of, it's a little fuzzy, but it's actually gives you another thing to think about. Is my car narrow? Can I fit past here? But essentially, you're generally going to be blocking 2 lanes. The 2 you're in, and there are 2 lanes to get past you. The only exception to this is if you're running some extremely wide modern cars, you can see that that car is over the limit here. If another car of the same width tried to pass it in this lane, it could not do it. So this car actually blocks 2 lanes. There's only one where you can get past it over here. But with a 4-lane Artin track, you essentially have at least a minimum of a 2-lane 124 track. If you're scratch building 125th cars, that's a big car. That was a 67 Mercury. That was a big car, and it's right on the line. But if you're scratch building the 125th cars, almost all of them are going to pass each other in lanes 2 and 3. So with 125th scale, you definitely have a 3-lane digital track, where if you're here, these 2 lanes can pass you. So there's 3 lanes of racing. Here's the map. I think it averages about 36 feet. There's about 2 or 3 foot difference between the lanes. I'm using the Yingling software, and I set up 4 tracks in my database, because what it'll do, it'll keep best lap time separate for each track. So if you want to start again, just change the name of your track and it'll give you a whole new set of databases. So here's my cars that I entered in here, and we're going to run through and see how they do. To conduct my tire test, I'm going to use this car, but I'm going to put the magnets back in because I can't drive without it. Lego tires on it now, and to do that I had to change the axle because they have a different hub. Then we're going to test with the Carrera tires that came with it. We're going to test with Paul Gage tires, and we're going to test with AliExpress tires. See the width of the tires here. The Legos on the right, Carrera next, Paul Gage, and then the AliExpress. Lego 14.6 millimeter, 14.49 millimeter. Yeah, that's going to compress some. So it's about the exact same if I don't compress it. Here's the Paul Gage one. It's about 0.5 millimeter smaller. So I'm going to run a 10-lap race in each lane with each type of tire. So you're talking 16 total tests. I'm not going to bore you to death with footage of every lap. I lost some races because my GoPro overheated and stopped recording, and then accidentally deleted pretty much all the Carrera footage. It shorted out one time over here, but it was actually kind of fun to race on something different. I thought a 4-lane digital track would be a lot of fun. The Artin lane changer is pretty sharp because it's shorter. You kind of switch lanes quite abruptly. Now the Artin speed controllers, I think in a much older video I mentioned this, their lane change button is on like a rocker switch, so that you have to lose some throttle in order to change lanes. I think that's a really good idea. I may have to revisit that at one time. So at the end of each race, the software is going to record it for us, and it'll give us a total time and then lap time. And then I switch the tracks in the database so that now this will be stored in a completely different setting. It's kind of strange, but I wanted to see every type of tire compared per lane. This lane got a little noisier. In the curves I started noticing a clunking, and the Artin track uses a plastic clip, and I got to thinking that it might be the plastic clips, but I didn't want to change really anything during the test. I wanted to keep things as even as possible, so I just kind of kept going. Yeah, the sharp 1 curves there, they tripped me up a little bit. Sometimes it would kick out, but I thought it was a pretty nice little layout, and the cars seemed to do pretty good. I didn't really have any problems with it. I could already see that the middle 2 lanes were going to be the sweet spot. When I switched to the 3rd lane, things got kind of crazy. The sound was just incredible when it went around the sweeping curves. It just pounded. You can hear it here. Listen to it. Right there and there. It was doing it a little bit in every lane, but it was extremely noticeable in this lane. I didn't know what it could be. I thought maybe the guide flag was bottoming out. I did have a problem with the little braid coming loose and catching on the rail and catapulting the car up, because sometimes the Carrera braids pop loose and then you kind of stick down, and it kind of screwed things up there. But anyhow, this was a concern to me, and then this
kind of became trying to figure out what's wrong, why this thing is pounding so loud. So here's the results of the inside lane. You can see Paul Gage wins, AliExpress, Lego, and then Carrera. Carrera did so poorly, I changed the rules and actually sanded their tires. Now we're on the outside and the pounding noise has quieted down. I mean, it's still a little bit loud. The Artin Track has a lot of joints because the pieces are rather small, but it doesn't have that severe pounding in both ends. It took me a little while to figure out that it was primarily in two lanes, one mostly, and on both ends. So one other thing that I wanted to test was the Airfix tires that I mentioned in my video about scratch building 125th scale cars. So I took my Mercury, has the Airfix tires on the back. This screen is sorted alphabetically, not best lap time. So Paul Gage is actually second. Lane 2, Paul Gage takes the lead. The Airfix tires are in second place. You can see the Carrera improved dramatically since that I sanded them. Again, AliExpress is best in lane 3, and Paul Gage then is best. The Carrera finished last. I knew they would, but that's really no surprise at all.
The GT40 got a little battered up against that barrier wall there. These little clips are put in here to hold the two tracks together, but they were working loose and becoming uneven. As the car would go around the curve, you could see it jump, 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 jump. But it only did that in these two lanes where the one tire was on that surface. So I think it might be better off just to take these out and see how it goes. So I removed all the braces from around the curves, and I still have a problem. It gets worse depending on what lane it's in. You can hear that clunk, 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 clunk. I don't know what it is. It's just hopping. It only does it on the curves. All the cars are doing it to a certain extent. This car seems to be the worst. Get down at that car. I don't know what's causing that. So I gotta fix that. Doesn't do it on the Artin or the Carrera straights. That only does it on this curve. The big round curve at both ends. You can just hear it clunk, 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 clunk. Smooth, smooth, clunk, 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 clunk. Smooth, clunk, 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 clunk. Don't know. I don't know. So here we have a Skelectric 132 car. But listen. The whole back end is even jumping off the ground. It like wheel hops. That thing has a tiny guide flag. It's going to seriously put a damper on my 4-lane digital track idea if I can't figure this out. Okay, now I'm really confused about this. I've tried to eliminate everything that I can. With this little Skelectric car, it only happens in lane 3, not lane 2. Oops, wrong way. Not lane 1. There it is. Just that lane. It's just lane 3. On both ends of the curve. Down there too. It is the bizarrest thing. Carrera 132 car. Smooth, smooth, smooth. No problem. There it is. Lane 3 on both ends. Not lane 4. Just lane 3. Got lane 2. I don't understand this. 3 of those lanes are perfectly fine. The one is complete junk right there, lane 3. I don't know what's wrong.
Sorry I went off on a tangent there. So once again, here's the tire test results. I would recommend Paul gauge number 1 if you're just replacing. If you want to scratch build, you got a couple of different options. All of them are pretty inexpensive. So, and this is on plastic track. I already tested them on painted, and they do pretty well on painted track. So that's that. I'm kind of frustrated with my track project. I think I'm going to tear it down and paint some works right now.